Hello, I'm Jan Moore. I'm from the University of Nebraska at Kearney, and my presentation is on hearing loss, cognitive change, and aging in Nebraska farmers and ranchers. Our disclosure statement, I'm a salaried professor at the University of Nebraska at Kearney, as well as Dr. Ghazi Saidi, and this research is funded by the Central States Center of Agricultural Safety and Health, and we have no non-financial conflicts of interest or relationships to disclose. Here are the co-investigators of our project, Dr. Ladan Ghazi Saidi, who I mentioned earlier, who is a cognitive neuroscientist, and Chandran Achutan, who is an environmental and occupational exposure specialist at the University of Nebraska Medical Center College of Public Health. So our study deals with cognitive status, and cognitive status is a collection of mental processes, and it can be attention, memory or recall, processing speed, decision-making, problem-solving, language understanding, and production. So there's a lot of processes that are encompassed in a term like cognitive status. And we assess cognitive status by looking at various input and output channels. So we assess problem solving, and we can do that through hearing and speaking, vision and speaking, or visual motor tasks. So the input and output functions involved in assessment are varied. So I wanted to talk a little bit about typical aging. And typical aging is a subtle change in memory or word recall or processing speed or attention. Atypical aging is a more accelerated rate of change in these cognitive status processes over multiple domains. And atypical aging may include a mild cognitive impairment. So this is something that is like increased forgetfulness, and the person is fully aware that this change has happened and they compensate for that. Then we have dementia or Alzheimer's disease, which is a inability to work or complete daily activities of living because of the changes in your cognitive status. So Alzheimer's disease is always preceded by a mild cognitive impairment, which gets worse. But not all people with mild cognitive impairment will progress to Alzheimer's disease. So we're interested in hearing loss and aging and cognitive change or decline. And we know that untreated hearing loss is independently associated with an increase in dementia or Alzheimer's disease. And that risk increases with every 10 dB of hearing loss using a pure tone average in elderly people. So we know from work that has been done at Johns Hopkins University in a longitudinal aging project called the Baltimore Study of Aging that 3.2% of cases of Alzheimer's disease or dementia was independently associated with hearing loss. There's other comorbidities with hearing loss, including significant injuries related to a fall, as well as persons seeking treatment for depression. So our project is looking at Nebraska agricultural workers who are in middle age to elderly. So we know that agricultural workers are at significant risk of hearing loss, because they are not required to protect their hearing on their independent farm or ranch. And we know that Nebraska ag workers often start working in agricultural as children on their family farms, and they may present with a hearing loss for most of their adult life. And we also know that Nebraska has a slightly higher than average rate of dementia in elderly persons than other states. So the purpose of our study is to explore the patterns of cognitive processing in agricultural workers and determine if there's a relationship between cognitive status and degree of hearing loss and age. So our participants, this is a long list of requirements for our participants, but they're independent farmers and ranchers, as well as their partners or spouses who also work on the farm, who are involved in crop and livestock production over the age of 50. And then we have a variety of factors that they need to meet before they can be included in our study, including normal or near normal corrected vision, no previous traumatic brain injury, neurological disease, or psychological condition like schizophrenia. They have to report that they had normal hearing as a child. They've had no major ear diseases or surgery. If they have had cancer, they cannot have had platinum-based chemotherapy, and they cannot have had a intravenous antibiotics with ototoxic antibiotics. And so once they meet all those criteria, we'll be seeing them, and they will be paid $50 for their travel time and costs to complete our study. So again, we're looking at farmers and ranchers. So we're going to recruit our patients at ag fairs and conferences by word of mouth, local TV, social media, and then agencies that serve farmers and ranchers, such as the Farm Bureau and Ag Extension. Of course, due to COVID-19, I'm not there in person to present this paper, but our recruitment came to a sudden halt, as many of you also had that happen to you with our study due to COVID-19, and we're looking at a way to change our recruitment so we can get people involved. So as I mentioned before, we're going to be recruiting at agricultural shows, Husker Harvest Days, which is a big agricultural fair, and other places. We do have a mobile testing van that we can test people's hearing, as well as provide information about our study. So our study protocol, we're going to do a full hearing test or a full audiogram. We're going to compute the pure tone average of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. And we're going to also do ultra high frequency testing and compute a speech intelligibility index, and that number is different than different than the pure tone average, in that it looks at how much of the speech signal is audible to the patient with their hearing loss. And so again, we're going to be testing people in our double-walled sound booth at the UNK Speech and Hearing Clinic. This is a picture of that, or our mobile van. We're also going to do a hearing health history and also look at their complete lifetime noise exposure history. And for that, we're going to be using a measurement called the lens Q. This is a measurement that was developed in Portland at the National Center for Rehabilitative Auditory Research. And that center is associated with the Veterans Administration and the Department of Defense. And there are 3 sections of the lens Q: military, non-military exposures, occupational exposures, military occupational exposures, and then non-occupational exposures. So this is a picture of the lens Q. So here is the non-military occupational exposures. And you can see here I have agriculture circled down here. And then we ask the patient when they first started in that profession, and when they have finished working in that profession, how often were they around noise, and if they protected their hearing. So this is one of the pages for agriculture. For non-military occupational exposure. And then there's pages that deal with recreational exposure, such as using rifles or pistols, hunting, target shooting, things like using a motorcycle, a snow machine, even things like being in a band, singing in a choir, those kinds of things. So that is our occupational exposure questionnaire. In terms of our cognitive tasks, we're going to be using the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, or MOCA. This is a screening test that measures global function of cognitive status. The ones that we're really interested in are something called trail making and word fluency. So trail making is kind of like a dot-to-dot task, and word fluency is something when we ask people to name all the words that they can think of beginning with the letter F, for example. We're also going to be using digit symbol substitution, which is a part of the Wessler Adult Intelligence Scale. This task allows we ask the patient to match a symbol with a number, and they fill out a grid. So this task, digit symbol substitution, doesn't require hearing to do that task. The trail making task does not require hearing to do that task, and the Stroop task does not require hearing. In the Stroop task, we ask the patient to deal with conflicting information in reading words that are color-coded. So again, all of our tasks are designed to minimize the influence of hearing and tap into cognitive status using visual or motor cognitive tasks. So this is a picture of the MOCA. So here's our trail making task. Here are some memory tasks that we use: attention, language, and then delayed recall of the tasks before. This is a copy of the digital symbol substitution task. So again, in this grid, the participant would fill in this symbol in this grid. So we have a little sample task here, and then it's timed for 2 minutes. This is a picture of the conflicting version of the Stroop, and that we ask the patient to tell us the color of the words here. So instead of reading red, we want them to tell us that it's blue, green, red, blue, that kind of thing. And again, that is timed, and we look at the errors that they make. So our study design is looking at the correlations between our pure tone average, or our speech intelligibility index, and the cognitive measures. We're looking for patterns of scores in these cognitive measures, and looking at differences across groups of participants based on their pure tone average, and then their age, and then also looking at male and female workers. So we hope to use our preliminary data from this study as a basis for longitudinal work. So back in February, we're able to run our very first participant to see how our test protocol would go. They had a mild to severe sensory neural hearing loss, a speech intelligibility index of 24 and 20%. So only about 20% of the signal wasn't available to them without a hearing aid. The pure tone average range, depending on how you computed it. This is a standard one, 5, 1, and 2, and then this is a more high frequency one. The person wore their personal hearing aids during our cognitive tasks, but they did not pass the MOCA. And we also found that the lens cue process was quite laborious because it's a very long questionnaire, and we may need to rethink how much time or how much information is really valuable from it, and how best to get that information. So this is the person's audiogram. You can see they have a mild to really severe hearing loss, dropping in the high frequencies. Here are the parts of the MOCA that they did not pass. The participant actually did not complete this trail making. They did not recall some of the words that we had presented to them before, and they didn't do well on this word fluency task, which is naming, again, a lot, as many words as you can, starting with the letter F. So the next steps of our study is to first off, we need to modify our protocol due to COVID-19. So I'm trying to, figure out how to best get the information from our participants, either via computer or a phone interview, perhaps, or a Zoom interview if they have a computer. We want to obviously get many more participants and women in our study. Over time, we hope to have more research partners with other universities in the Great Plains area, universities in Kansas, North and South Dakota, and Colorado, and of course get more funding for our project. So if you have any questions or ideas on how to help our project be better, please send me an email at moreja2@unk.edu. Thank you very much.